All right, we're live. Another episode of Monero Talk. This is a special one. It's Monero's fifth anniversary, the Monero-versary. Oh wait, hold on one second. I'm getting some distracting feedback here.
Is there audio feedback?
Yeah, hold on one second. All right, I think I'm good now. It was on my end.
It was on your end. I do have a goofy pair of headphones.
All right, no, we're good. All right, we're still live.
Okay.
All right, we have Mitchell joining us again. He joined us a few weeks ago from the standpoint of a member of the Monero Research Lab. Today, he is joining us as a contributor to the Mastering Monero book that was published a few months ago now. I believe he's the editor of the book. There were quite a few contributors. We can go through some of them as well. I know Justin played a big role in it in, I guess being the publisher, and obviously Sirhack, written by Sirhack. He was unable to join the video today, but I do believe he's in the chat and will be answering questions if they come up, specifically relative to him. And yeah, it's just great to have you. And I believe there is an announcement to be made today for Mastering Monero. I don't want to be the one to say it.
Yes, officially on the 5-year anniversary, releasing a free copy of Mastering Monero. It'll be an electronic PDF. It means 100% of the content in the physical copy. And yeah, that should be available for download, I believe, at mastermonero.com. Please take it, share it widely, learn lots from it.
Awesome. I think very appropriate for Monero's 5th anniversary, a present to the community. We have the link posted in the show notes for anybody that comes across the show. I would urge people to personally to buy the book, just to kind of as a contribution back to the community. I don't even know how much does it even cost to purchase the book?
I think it's like $9, and it's not for profit. It goes to Monero charity, if I recall, or it's one of the donations.
Yeah, I would definitely.
That's actually the cheapest price point Amazon would let us have it at, because we wanted the physical copy to be as accessible as possible.
Wow. Yeah, I would urge people. Plus, it's nice. You get the physical copy. It's something to, put on the coffee table to, impress your guests.
Yeah.
I have 2 of them. I bought one when it first came out, and then I got a free one when Justin came to one of the New York City meetups, and he gave some of them away as gifts. But yeah, I would definitely, despite the free PDF, I would urge everyone to go ahead and purchase it. It's only $10. It's well worth it. And it's nice to have. You can write in it, keep notes. So to the book itself. So how did this all come about? I mean, I know Sirhack is kind of the lead on this. So he took the initiative and kind of started reaching out to everybody. What was the process here?
Yeah, so Sirhack started the initiative. He was previously, I don't know if you know, put together the Monero integrations project for like accepting Monero payments. And that was, I want to say like 2016, a little ways back. And one of the things he discovered was that there was a lot of documentation missing or inconsistent documentation, and just that it was really hard to find the right resources about Monero, kind of at the right technical level, right? You either find stuff that's very ELI5 or it's like way deep. And so what he went out to do was to really put together a book that's good for the community to kind of learn from square zero, but then also go all the way into like Monero development, coding stuff out, how to work integrations, all of that. Started putting together this great team. So you mentioned Justin, the publisher. Let's see, Andres was our illustrator, did amazing work. I would always draw up these like little terrible stick figure drawings, and then like 48 hours, he would have these beautiful final pictures back. Absolutely magic. Then Gustav was our designer, and Yeah, I think I was probably the last one to join on the team back maybe in February. I posted on Reddit. It was one of the Reddit boards where you can post, I think, work. And I had posted that I was looking for editing work, and met with Serhack and realized really a perfect opportunity. I read a little bit, sent it back, and yeah, joined the team then. And we were together for over a year on the book, and it was really phenomenal. They're great, located, I believe, on 4 different continents, and coordinated by email for a lot of it, Trello for a lot of it. It was really kind of great watching it come together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing you guys were able to do this together as a group. I mean, I guess that's like Monero itself, right? Obviously, I mean, I'm always amazed at how the developers just kind of contribute their time for free, and just the coordination that's involved. I mean, this is the book, I think, is a good representation of that. But yeah, on a higher level, the way Monero in general kind of all comes together, all these moving parts, different people all around the world, just contributing to one project and somehow it working out. But yeah, I was very. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say that's actually what drew me into Monero in the first place, was just this super exciting, grassroots, decentralized team where it was just like super open, almost folksy, like kind of just ethos and community, and really like join in with this very organic growth, organic community.
So Serhack himself, what does Serhack play any other role? I think you mentioned he was working on other things in Monero as well, or what were the other contributions he's made?
So I know he spearheaded the Monero integrations project, and then I think was mostly focused on mastering Monero through 2018. Serhack somewhere, feel free to hop in. Serhack is a very like mysterious person I don't know much about. So there may be a lot there may be a lot of other things going on that I'm not privy to.
Okay. Yeah, no, we were really trying to get him on, but obviously in Monero sometimes it's difficult to get guests for reasons.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I would love to know more about him. But is he in the chat?
And I had an IRC window open, but he's not here. I don't have the chat for this video open.
Okay.
What we do know is that he is an Italian security researcher and developer with an interest in Monero and general like InfoSec, OPSEC, that kind of thing.
Okay. Do we know? Well, I guess in the book it talked a little bit about his story. I think he started in Bitcoin, and got into Monero in like 2016 or something. So yeah, I guess you got to read the book if you want to learn about Serhack.
Yeah. Which is the backstory there, I think.
So yeah, the book itself is really great. I love the way it kind of opens up, talks about, in a general sense, what Bitcoin is, kind of what the purpose of cryptocurrency is, and then in describing Bitcoin first, it segues into Monero, and that where Bitcoin falls short, obviously, is its lack of privacy and fungibility. And it's a really nice explanation and a nice kind of story that takes you from Bitcoin into Monero, and kind of really giving you and in a visual sense of why fungibility is so important. And I would urge anybody, obviously, I think we have mostly Monero people here, but if there's any Bitcoin people out there, this is a great way to get into Monero and kind of realize why it may be lacking some important things such as fungibility, and it describes it very well and makes it very matter of fact. So yeah, I like the way they did that. I like the images kind of showing you, when you make a transaction in Bitcoin, essentially everybody knows your transaction, and then kind of describing the real world use cases for Monero and why Bitcoin might be a problem for things like, you guys listed off some nice things like price manipulation, financial surveillance, supply chain privacy, discrimination, transaction security. So you don't want people to know how much money you have. I mean, kind of that $5 wrench attack. If I send, buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin, potentially somebody might know that I, whatever, have 100 Bitcoin. The tainted coins, obviously, which is the fungibility, all really cool. What I thought too would be nice, maybe in future editions, or kind of there's just like the free speech arguments, or maybe I'm missing it, but I think there's a lot to be said there, just in kind of the philosophical reasons why Monero is important. I think that could be a good thing to maybe expand upon in the future. We're seeing, I don't know if you're familiar with Coin Center and the recent publications they've had on privacy and the importance of privacy in blockchain, and why we need to move towards that and support projects like Monero. It'd be interesting to see maybe more about that in the future. I think that's like where really strong arguments can be made on kind of this philosophical, ethical level of why Monero is important. Kind of these free speech arguments, the freedom for people to transact. I just thought that's something that could be. Maybe I need to make a contribution for a future edition.
That would actually be a great thing to work into version 2. When we were writing the version was actually prior to that. Was it CoinDesk, right? Was prior to that kind of free speech connection, and actually I really like that kind of framework for looking at it, and I think it would be neat to kind of work next edition. Kind of some real quick notes on what you were mentioning earlier with like how we compare and contrast it to Bitcoin. One thing I just want to like briefly mention, and this is kind of some like historical stuff that from when we were putting the book together. I remember very early on, in like the first maybe week of my work editing, like I kind of took all the material on the book and like metaphorically dumped it out on the table, and then ordered it from like what is square 0, 1 through like the more advanced stuff, and very, very, very carefully reordered the book so that you can literally give the book to someone who is like, is that the thing I saw on TV once? Why would I want it? Like starting from there, give them the book, and chapter 1 should be like, oh, this is why we want cryptocurrencies. This is why why they're valuable, why privacy is valuable, all of that. We definitely did not want to come off as anti-Bitcoin, and so it was actually tricky because when we were writing the examples, at one point, I think an initial draft, we had like Bitcoin for the first exam, and Ethereum in the second one, and then Litecoin in the third one, right? So for every example, we were selecting a different transparent currency, hoping that would show that we're kind of like generally talking about ecosystem endemic privacy issues. And then is that since that chapter is geared towards people that have maybe just heard of cryptocurrency 20 minutes ago, we're like, that could get overwhelming if we're now bouncing around a ton of names and trying to figure out, oh wait, is it because of like the specific cryptocurrency? So for simplicity, we ended up just using Bitcoin in the references and kind of putting it, these apply currencies, not Bitcoin. We're just kind of using it as an example, just to make that flow.
Was that something that Serhack was also concerned about? Is what's his take on the kind of Bitcoin versus Monero? Do you know if he has an opinion on that? Is he a Bitcoin / Monero guy, or is he a purebred Monero guy?
I actually have no clue. Okay. So I also don't know like what other pseudonyms he operates under in different communities. I know from the is that he learned a little bit about Bitcoin and then became very interested in Monero. I think I remember once that like maybe there was involvement in another cryptocurrency, but I don't actually know. Again, there's a lot of mystery surrounding him.
Appropriate for Monero. How about the so yeah, that would be that was something that came to mind when I was reading it, kind of that, something on about the kind of the free speech arguments would be cool to see. And then also the wallet section I think is great, where you guys are talking about the wallets. And I know, like, I believe it was Justin that had published something so that people kind of really understood what you're getting when you're using, a mobile wallet versus, a web wallet versus a hardware wallet. And then even among the mobile wallets themselves, how there's kind of different things to be concerned about in terms of security, whether or not you truly control your own keys, and then how, like, the level, whether or not it's truly open source. Because I mean, this is kind of a debate, things we're always seeing on Reddit. Oh, Cake Wallet is the only open source mobile wallet, or the first, right? And then there's other ones coming saying, well, my Monero was for, there's this whole, it would be nice, maybe a chapter, or in that chapter, kind of to like break down and describe all the wallets and how they should be categorized in terms of their security, whether or not you're truly holding your keys, with Cake, for example, you hold the keys. With My Monero, you hold your private keys, but you're giving up your view key, and there might be. So I think those are interesting things, in looking at the wallet section that you might want to make people aware of, so they know what they're getting when they choose their wallet. Just another idea.
One of, like, the most challenging sections to write, and we rewrote it so many times. Because it's tricky for two reasons. One, the language around wallets is just inconsistent. It's and, like, honestly, wallet's not even a great term, right? If you want to go with physical analogies, like your physical wallet actually stores your money. Your crypto wallet doesn't actually store your money. So the language mess. And then this, I believe, went into chapter 2, right? Because the goal while writing it was use Monero. Chapter 2 is how to use Monero, like, totally non-technical. Give it to your, grandma or an 8-year-old, whatever. They should be able to understand how to use Monero. And then it gets more technical from chapter 3. The notion being you could close the book at the end of chapter and be ready to know everything you need. So it was really actually extremely tricky, because the news between these different wallets, with kind of, as you were saying, who's got what key, and Monero has like 4 keys: private, public view. It was really try to figure out how to boil those concepts down in a way to become non-technical and yet detailed enough to allow people to actually make educated decisions at the level they needed. Definitely, we'll be looking to iterate on ways to improve that in version 2. And then the conversation that Justin started maybe like a month or 2 ago, I think was really valuable. And if we can kind of standardize the language and make it and more descriptive, I think that'd be for everyone. Would definitely love to then reflect that in the next edition of the book.
Yep. Yeah. No, easier said than done. I realize that. Yeah. I mean, you guys, it's not easy to express these completely novel ideas. And like you said, trying to use analogies to what people already understand, it kind of makes things difficult, because, like you said, I mean, a wallet really isn't even, I guess, an appropriate term, right? Because it's more about holding your keys versus not holding your keys. I never even really thought of it that way. Yeah, no, I think, the work that Justin recently did in describing wallets would be a great start for maybe incorporating that. Let's see, going through further. There's obviously a lot of great stuff in here. I like the where was it? The taxi cab analogy, which I believe was for describing how miners, kind of describing proof of work and why you need proof of work, with the analogy of the taxi cab network Do you have a good understanding of that? Do you remember that one off the top of your head?
Yeah, I have such mixed feelings. So I came up with that analogy.
Oh, you came up with that one. I think it's great.
I came up with that one. Yeah, I came up with that one. Again, sketched out these terrible like white paint stick figure drawings that often turned into beautiful illustrations. It was really hard to describe proof of work in a very technical way. I really liked the analogy when I came up with it, and then now I have like mixed feelings because it's not perfect, right? Because there's a little bit of a sense of like progress in the rearrangement and a little bit of a skill thing, which doesn't quite map to the system. So I've always been actually kind of rolling through if there's an analogy for the second edition, but I'm glad you like it and that it's helpful and instructive.
Yeah, do you want to describe it a little bit? I think it's just good to get out. I mean, hopefully people read it in the book, but yeah.
Yeah, so let me collect my thoughts real quick. So we were trying to come up with an analogy to describe conceptually how proof of work works and also why we even bother with that. And the analogy, you can think of transactions as riders of like a taxi service that are trying to go from point city to point B, and someone's trying to go from point B to point C, right? So people are trying to get all around, and you have a bunch of independent taxi drivers that represent the miners. And the way that we kind of set up this scenario is that all of the people that want to get rides call in, app or whatever, so that the rides show up on kind of a board that need a pending board, which is your analogy to the mempool, or the memory pool. So in other words, transactions that have been broadcast but not yet mined. In this case, have been announced but not yet executed. And then all of the taxi drivers, each representing a miner, are competing to submit a plan and be able to check out a car to move the riders. And the car then being the first one to get done and then being able to check out the car is the analogy for actually having solved the block. And so you're putting the sections in the block, or you're putting the riders in the car, however you want to look at it. And the notion was that the way that this would work is that so I think there's like a picture of like 3 competing taxi drivers, so 3 miners, and each of them are like looking at the board of upcoming, and then kind of rearranging the letters in the riders' names to create a sentence. And the sentence can be total nonsense, right? Like apple is red, yum, or something. But it needs to follow, it needs to be letters long and follow the grammatical conventions of the local language. The notion here is that one, miners get a head start on the next block, because as soon as like the last checked out, they have to start from scratch with like the next set of riders, rearranging those. So that's how like at every block, once it's mined, all of the miners then begin working on the next block. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and that kind of shows where with the proof of work, the work isn't valuable later, right? So this sentence that apple jam is good isn't going to be used outside of any context. It's not going to be used for any other. It's simply to solve this block. And then to frame why we need proof of work, we talk about the fact that if you have, say, we've got a bunch of these taxi drivers, they're all competing for spots in the car, and some of them may be malicious, right? They may be to pick up riders from a certain neighborhood or from a certain demographic, right? And that kind of censorship is unacceptable to the Monero Taxi Cab service, which wants to service all riders equally. And so we have the riders do these competitions, because if there was just like, the taxi drivers, because if it was just one taxi driver who could check it out whenever, then they might be able to do censorship or discrimination. But by causing them to compete, as long as some of your drivers are honest, even if a couple rides go up to the board and are ignored by dishonest drivers, eventually an honest driver is going to win the block and go pick up all of those riders and take them to their destination. So the notion being that proof of work kind of censorship resistance to the system. Yeah, maybe not the most eloquent run through of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to explain. Yeah, definitely worth checking out in the book, though. I think it's, I think it's a pretty good analogy. Like you said, it's not easy to come up with something that truly defines why proof of work makes sense for things other than cryptocurrency. So using this analogy, it's difficult, but for anybody just getting into it, I think it really does start to open your mind and kind of make sense of these things. Because lots of times, I mean, people, especially hearing cryptocurrency, learning about it for the first time, all this stuff sounds so random. I mean, it's like you have computers that are solving puzzles and somehow that turns into money, and they're burning electricity for it. Why? So it's very abstract. I would definitely recommend people to check out that section.
The notion of I'm going to do something useless to prevent censorship is very alien outside of this context.
Right. But I thought you guys did a very good job with that. So that was something that stood out to me. What are some other notable things we could point out in the book? I guess one of the things I wanted to mention, actually things that weren't in the book, too, was maybe just more criticisms of Monero itself. I know Monero is kind of famous for being skeptical of itself. The community itself is like that. On Reddit, I think there's skepticism, or what do we call it? I forget what we call it on Reddit, but on Sundays when everybody asks their critical questions of Monero, and then Justin did his show Breaking Monero, which I think is a great series that really goes into some of the potential flaws of where Monero can do things better. Do you guys plan on incorporating those ideas into the book as well? Kind of going into some of the potential drawbacks or shortcomings of Monero, or where we think we can do things better?
Yeah, I think that would. I mean, that should be its chapter. Back in February 2018, when we were like putting together kind of the outline for the book, was before the Breaking Monero series occurred, and also my earlier days in Monero, where I wasn't quite as I was still working out how it works under the hood and whatnot, and hadn't yet gotten this broad picture of all the statistical weaknesses. So it didn't end up in the book because it kind of wasn't on my radar when we were piecing it together. But now I spend a lot of my waking hours thinking about Monero weaknesses and ways to exploit them and ways to fix them. And I do think it's like a really important thing to then discuss in the book. So I actually think we could almost use the Breaking Monero series to like give us the starting point of the outline for the chapter, and then just go in and kind of flesh out all of those ideas. Would be really powerful. And also, I think it would be good to, it helps to hone in on what are the stronger and weaker weaknesses, right? Since we have, like, in the book we talk about, there's T to obscure your transaction amount, there's ring signatures to obscure your sender, and there's stealth addresses to obscure the recipient. And one of those things is the other. So stealth addresses and ring CT are both cryptographically secure, right? Enormous numbers, can't be cracked, sort of. Like, those are secure in the and then ring signatures are a different type of security. So they're not cryptographically secure in the sense that they're cryptographically secure in the sense that you can't like back out mathematically which output produced the ring signature. But instead of your numbers with rings, with the other two privacy numbers are like whatever 10 to the 70 power, right? Huge. With ring signatures, it's like, well, 1 out of 11, or it's just a much smaller number by orders and orders and orders of magnitude. And so that's where, like, two of our privacy features, one of them has these, heuristic weaknesses. That is where we have all this like graph matching analysis and trying to kind of like whittle away at that. And so I think really diving into that and helping readers and like the relative of these features would probably be valuable, because in the first edition, we treat them as like all equally, so we'll say privacy protecting, and kind of like really digging in a little bit more differences could be useful. Or I don't know, maybe I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no, I think that's I think that would be a great approach. And then also, obviously comparing it to other projects, like Zcash, and then maybe Bitcoin itself in terms of the privacy features that Bitcoin is looking to add, or kind of its workaround. I mean, for me, the big question always is Monero digital cash? That's kind of like the thing that's always kind of playing in the back of my mind and on this show, trying to pursue that question. Is it the best form of digital cash that we have, right? So comparing, I personally think we're there right now, and we're on a trajectory where we'll hopefully maintain that position. But just being honest with ourselves and trying to figure out, are we actually digital cash? Are we doing it better than Zcash and Bitcoin? I think that's really, for me, that's kind of the big question. And not so much, I personally see that as kind of what this is all about. So it's not so much being a Monero maximalist, but a digital cash maximalist. And currently Monero seems to be the front runner, but just kind of always questioning ourselves. Are we still the one? Are we doing everything that we need to do to kind of maintain that? And I think that's ultimately what the community does. But yeah, it'd be nice to see that, maybe chapters on that kind of compares us to Zcash and Bitcoin, in addition to our own follies.
Yeah, we kind of like very intentionally avoided that, kind of for I would say three main reasons, but these are kind of my reasons. I'm not the whole team here, or maybe I am. But kind of my thoughts are, one, just because we wanted this to be kind of potentially like a textbook kind of resource, we keep it at a relatively high level of professionality. And so then there were questions of like, well, if we take time to then go really dig into weaknesses in other projects, is that like in scope of the book, out of scope of the book? Is that stronger, weaker? The other two kind of issues are, one, we didn't have any Zcash experts on board with the book. And so none of us felt quite confident enough to like do a teardown of Zcash ourselves. So I think it would be possible maybe to then that in an upcoming version, but I think we would actually probably want to find someone with Zcash expertise to kind of hop on the team and contribute to that. And I would be chat with the Zcash team if they're writing a book and help them with Monero weaknesses. I'd be happy to. And then the last piece is just that things change so quickly in the space. If you think about, so we published the first edition in end of 2018, if I recall. And I think if I was writing a criticism of Zcash then, my main issues would have been, oh, well, it's nigh impossible to use it on a mobile device. And so, the proof times are so big and so large that it won't be able to get mainstream adoption. Pool, and since your anonymity pool is so small, then yes, your transactions, instead of 1 out of 11, it's 1 out of the whole pool, but that's still small and vulnerable to heuristics and graph matching and all of that. Like when that occurred and when we're talking today, they've upgraded to sapling. Now the proofs are way smaller, way faster. I think it happened on mobile devices. So like it's one of those, like the criticisms would have already been out of date by like the time we're having this conversation. So yeah, so that's the other tricky thing. I'm also very interested in Zcash and several different privacy coins. So I've been following it more and more. We kind of hang out in their dev room and all of that. So hopefully I'll be a little bit more equipped to kind of process and talk about that in the future as well.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I mean, you guys, I think you made a great decision then in what you did, because it does have this very researchy feel to it, like this scientific, something like an honest resource that you can trust, which I'm always impressed by Monero. I don't know where that's stemming from, but that seems to be part of our culture, and it's woven into it, which I think is a great asset to our culture. Like I said, that whole skepticism thing, but also just kind of this professionalism in terms of how things are published, kind of this research. Where is that stemming from? I guess that's a good question. I mean, where is that coming down from? Is it just the fact that the Monero Research Lab exists? Because we kind of always have this researchy vibe to what we do.
That's a really good question. Yeah, because I always love, we joke about Monero, like the most non-transparent cryptocurrency, but then the most like decentralized, transparent community.
Right.
I don't even know, that culture has been around since before I joined, and is actually part of what drew me to it. I love it. I don't quite know where it comes from. Because it seems to be, from my perspective, you see people just being like helpful, really honest, both critical and in positive ways on Reddit, on IRC, kind of through all the different documentation and resources. I don't know. It's interesting that just ended up kind of attracting like a very professional kind of orbit, I would say. I think some of it recently maybe with the Monero outreach and education group, XMR Halion, I don't know, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, kind of got in touch with me around the beginning of the book, and we were thinking, how can we help spread useful, transparent, communicable information? And they put together, or like I put together a draft for like a journalist quick sheet, and that into something beautiful and published it out, and then started this work group that has really, I think, something neat that, they do all kinds of like publication, getting information out there, fact sheets. I think that is a really strong resource for the Monero community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then also, actually, I just caught a good question. Somebody was asking what would ASICs be in this analogy. Back to the analogy for proof of work, the taxi cab analogy. What would ASICs be in that analogy? Any way to depict that?
That is a great question. That is a really great question.
And that's potentially maybe something you could go back to in your ASIC discussion in the book as well. Back to the analogy. It's good. It is a good question.
Yeah, what would an ASIC be? Because they're still still just shuffling randomly, right? They're not like programmatically able to navigate the sentences better. So yeah, I don't know. It would be like some machine that just very rapidly like shuffle scan, shuffle scan, shuffle scan, shuffle scan, something like that.
But I think in describing it, you help depict the importance for why we are ASIC resistant, currently ASIC resistant, and that we want to maintain this censorship resistance, right? Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't have a great ASIC analogy off the top of my head, but it'll like come to me in a couple hours, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'd love to hear what other people think of for that, actually.
Yeah, something that would allow somebody to gain an advantage, and then where it kind of becomes more centralized. I don't know, something to think about. Good question. And then in terms of the contributors, I guess we didn't mention everybody. I'm not going to read everybody off now, so obviously when you check out the book, make sure you take a look at that, because obviously a lot of people participated here. But I noticed that Fluffy isn't on here, which I think is kind of another testament to the fact that Monero is this distributed beast where there's a lot of people working on it, a lot of people doing projects. This book itself, led by Serhack, but built with various members of the community, just a testament to the fact that Monero is truly distributed and open source. And I do find that interesting that Fluffy's not even in the credits. You would think he'd be, the top contributor here. For anybody that doesn't really know Monero, that would be their first thought. Why isn't Fluffy part of this, without understanding that there's a lot more to Monero than the current frontman. Just a thought.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, one of the, I don't think Fluffy was involved with the book at all. One of the really neat things actually was that over the course of writing this, there was a ability on Reddit. We had at one point, we were working on GitHub so people could hop in and comment and edit. So we had, not just, there's a handful of names you see frequently in the Monero community, and then also just a lot of people came out of the woodworks to contribute. And a lot of handles that I'd never encountered before, just kind of hopping on, adding some edits on GitHub, opening questions about how to make it more accessible. I thought was one of the really cool things about the book was bringing just a whole new group of people together to build something.
Yep. So yeah, well done, guys. Yeah, like I said, I'd urge people to, it is being published today for free in PDF form. I think that's an amazing resource for the community, but I would urge anybody to just buy it. Or if you're gonna download the PDF, send a donation to Monero or something. Do the right thing. What was the other thing? Oh, so I know you're going to Denver, right? I saw you're going to be presenting there. And you're coming to New York too? I think we talked about some. Are you coming to the Magical Crypto Conference too?
Maybe. So I'm definitely going to be. Wait, is that in New York or is that in Denver?
There's the Denver one, which is the crypto, just the pure Monero conference in June, right? I think that's in June.
Yeah,
and then
and then the Magic one is in New York.
Yeah, that one's in New York. Just curious if you'll be attending.
Okay. Maybe I'll definitely be at Monero Conference, so I'll be giving a talk about the intersection of data science and privacy and crypto, of course, in the context of Monero. Just to give like a real quick pitch for what you can hope to take away from that talk is that I'm going to dive in a little bit, not just to showing results, but actually showing, okay, well, how do we, when we have a research question, how do we and then what's the way that we can first take a peek at it, which is usually either a histogram or a scatter plot, which for a lot of people may be routine, but a lot of other people may not have thought about shuffling data into those. So the hope is that by the end of the talk, not only will people have learned, about some cool Monero phenomena and some next steps and things are improving, but also really how to think when they have a research question. Oh, how can I get the data? Oh, I know how to plot it. I know I want to see a histogram or something like that. So not just to talk about things that are going, so educational and really empower people to kind of go out and data research in this space. And then I'll be at Consensus in New York, and then possibly also at the Magical, what was it, Magical Crypto thing?
Yeah, there's the Magical. Oh, you there?
Yeah, all right.
The Magical Crypto Conference is right before. It's the weekend before Consensus. It's the 11th, and then you have Consensus, and then we're actually throwing the Monero after party. We threw it last year as well during Consensus week. We're throwing that on Monday, the 13th. So that'd be awesome if you could come by that. Yeah,
I'll make it happen.
We could chat over a few cocktails.
Yeah, it'd be great to meet you in person.
Yeah, I urge anybody else to check that out in the Monero community. If you're going to be in New York, if you're coming in for Consensus, to try to come by that party, it should be really cool. Last year we had all the heavy hitters from the community came out. It's a good event. But yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for doing the show. Thanks for representing Mastering Monero. Like I said, there's a lot of people put a lot of work into this. Written by Serhack. He wanted to maintain his anonymity, so he didn't come on. But thank you, Mitchell, for joining us and representing. And yeah, it was great. Happy Monero-versary. Oh, when do you think we'll see another edition? Is that like a year away, or what do you think?
I'm not sure. That's a question for Serhack.
Okay.
Serhack and the team. Yeah, thanks again for helping on the show, spreading word about the book. You asked earlier why the community have this great, open and transparent and helpful kind of attitude and ethos. honestly, I kind of left out one of the important things. It's people like you, right? Like, Talk is almost a prototypical example of this type of like strength of the Monero community. So thank you for like your role in making that happen.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm trying to do my part.
I love the show.
All right, man. Hopefully see you in New York. Have a good one.
Yeah. See you then. Thanks.
All right. Ciao.